We are here on CB10 Speaks. I'm your host, Bailey Jeremy, and we are going deeper into this public safety forum, breaking the cycle of gun violence. I have Mr. Wayne McKenzie here with me. Thank you for coming
Thanks for having me.
to our CB10 podcast. And I just want you first to introduce yourself, let everyone know what your role is. And then I will give you all of the questions because I have a lot of them.
Okay, sure. Wayne McKenzie. I'm an executive assistant district attorney and chief of the Pathways to Public Safety Division in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, where I basically oversee all of the problem-solving courts, all of the misdemeanor and felony alternative to incarceration work, and front-end diversion, and we're now building out our reentry work.
Wow, that's powerful work. Very powerful work. So my first question for you is related to violent crime. This has been an issue in our city for a very long time. And I want to hear from you. What do you think are like primary contributing factors to the violence in the city?
Okay, so let me start, and it's actually something that the public advocate even mentioned, right? It's the reality and the perception can mean two different things. And at the end of the day, we're guided more than by our perceptions. So the reality is a lot of crime and different crime indexes, including violent crimes, are actually down. And when you compare New York City to other big cities, New York City is actually a lot safer than most big cities. So I always like to lead with that, number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, when you think about violent crime, and especially when you're thinking about gun violence, I think one of the biggest things is the access to weapons. And when you think about public safety, police officers, prosecutors, judges, the criminal legal system, that comes into play after the fact. The one biggest thing that we can do around gun violence is actually deals with gun control, proper, safe gun control. And this argument, this Second Amendment argument, I think is false. I think that it's an argument put forward by the gun lobby and gun manufacturers, because that business is a $1 trillion business. The illegal firearms trade is a $1 billion business. And so gun control and access to weapons would make a big difference.
Okay. So oftentimes when there is a significant crime that reaches, like national media level, there are one of two things that are often like thrown out there from my perspective. And one of them is mental health, depending on what the situation is. And then another is oftentimes socioeconomic status or race. So I'm curious, how do you feel those factors contribute to what we're dealing with in this city?
I think you're right. They're significant contributing factors. Sometimes it feels like the biggest provider of mental health in the city are our jails, Rikers Island. And we all know how that works out, right? Correction officers are not social workers. They're not psychiatrists. And so I think behavioral health is a huge driver. I see that in my work. as a matter of fact. Like I said, I oversee the mental health boards, where when we identify someone with mental health issues, and we also think that with a proper treatment, that they can be safely managed in the community. Quite often, they end up with their charges dismissed after they successfully complete their mandate. And what we keep hoping is that they remain connected with services. When you talk about socioeconomic, the law enforcement and the criminal justice system, we respond to the symptoms of the failing of other primary institutions. So when you talk about education, when you talk about access to health, when you talk about affordable housing, when you talk about economic opportunities, for as long as especially our communities are challenged in those four areas, there's always going to be a feeder for the criminal justice system. And there's always going to be, I think, a racial inequity within the system as well. We treat the symptoms. We need strong community alliances to actually attack the problem and the source of the problem, the causes of the problem.
So it sounds like you're also very involved and also driving a lot of reform around these issues. Do you feel like you're making good progress with some of the reform that you're focusing on?
So sometimes I feel like if you think about the parable of the little girl who's walking down the beach with her father, and like thousands of starfish, and she bends over, she tosses one in, she walks, she bends over, she tosses another one back into the ocean. And eventually her father says, hey, look, the thousands of starfish on this beach, one at a time, you're not going to make a difference. And the little girl bends over, picks up a starfish, throws it back into the ocean, looks at her father and said, but I made a difference to that one.
Oh, that's good.
And so we can't stop what we're doing, but at the same time, who's going to be the person that's going to come and say, well, why are these starfish being stranded on the beach to begin with, and fix that big system problem?
The oil spill that we're not looking at, right?
Ding, ding, ding. And so we have to keep advocating for proper schools. I'm going to say it again. Mental health services, general health services, the same things that you hear over and over again. We all know that. The question is, who's going to have the courage to step up and actually do the long-term work?
And that. So I have a few more questions for you. I want you to walk us through what the pathways to public safety division is exactly.
Okay, sure. So I'll use our felony work as an example. DA offices all around this country have what I would say small alternative to incarceration units. The Manhattan DA's office under Alvin Bragg is the first and right now the only DA's office in the country that has a complete division that's specifically geared towards this work. And so there are deputy bureau chiefs that are deployed in each trial division and in our special victims division, where they, along with the supervisors in that division, review every felony case that's coming into the office. They're identifying cases that they think are eligible for diversion. And we're not talking about just the low-level nonviolent cases. We're talking about cases where there are various levels of violence involved.
Okay.
Then we have those cases assessed. We have a partner, and they do clinical assessments. I'm a lawyer. I can deal with the legal aspect of it. We let the clinical professionals assess the individual and sort of tell us what they think are driving the individual's criminogenic behavior or what types of supports they really need. And if we make a decision that that person can safely be managed in the community, then those cases are diverted into the pathway system. If the person is successful, many times they have their case dismissed. Other times it may be a high-level felony and the case is dropped down to a misdemeanor. Generally, we're working with them 12 months, 18 months, sometimes longer if we're doing judicial diversion, because we understand that relapse is also part of recovery. So people get multiple chances to try to succeed. And the early data that we're seeing is showing that we're on the right track.
And how long would you say that this initiative has been like happening and we've been collecting data?
So it started under the division work started under DA Bragg. The previous administration, they had an alternative to incarceration unit. But the division has grown.
Okay.
I'm still growing it. And so, for example, 27% of all indicted felony cases in Manhattan, it's now within the pathways to public safety division. So that's higher than 25%. We're still growing. We're still expanding our work in other areas. So I think it's going to take another maybe 2 to 3 years for us to have more robust data to show that under the Bragg administration, how effective the work has been.
Okay. And my last question for you, I want to go back to your analogy about your starfish. What is the starfish that you're most proud of? Like what movement, what change have you made that you feel like made a significant difference and is fulfilling in this work for you?
Okay, so that's going to be difficult question to answer in the context of my current role.
Okay.
Because I've been chief of pathways now for about a year.
So what led you to this?
What led me to this? Oh, I'll be very honest. I used to be general counsel for the New York City Department of Probation.
Okay.
And I saw the work that we were doing within probation and how transformative it has been. I started my career as a prosecutor in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. And so when I saw what DA Bragg was doing, the work he was doing, and he asked me to come in and join his team, it seemed like a natural way to get back into prosecution, to do the type of work that I love to do. And don't get me wrong, I loved early in my career being in a courtroom and trying cases, right? But true public safety are the crimes that never happen because it's been involved, you've changed the trajectory of someone's life. And so, yeah, that's sort of the work now. I think my starfish moment is yet to come.
Okay. Well, I look forward to watching your progress and the starfish that makes the difference. And I anticipate you being in front of me again. So thank you so much, Mr. McKenzie, for coming to the CV10 Speaks podcast. We really appreciate you.
So thank you for having me. And yeah, I look forward to returning.
Thank you.
Thanks.